Hello, everyone. Um, Welcome to the Team Challenge Under Siege finals event. Um, we've got three wonderful judges here today to sort of talk over all the work that you've managed to produce in the last month, and you will find out who the winners of the challenge will be. So before we get into all that, we're all going to go through and the judges will introduce themselves. If we just want to go through in the order that we've got on the stream. So then Angelo, then Karen, then Rishab. So I'll hand it over to you three.
Thanks, Lloyd. I'm Angelo, currently lighting artist in Codemasters, and before that, environment and lighting artist at Out of the Blue Games.
Hello, I am Karen. I am a senior environment artist at PlayStation Visual Arts. Before that, I was at Ubisoft, working on Division and Far Cry 6.
Hello, hi, I'm Rishabh, and I'm currently working as lead environment prop artist at Ubisoft Berlin. I've been here for almost 5 years now, 5 years, and before this, I was working for technical and outsourcing studio in India. I worked there for almost 7 years. Yeah, nice to be here.
Awesome. So in that case, we'll move straight on to the next part of the stream, which is we'll just dive straight into the actual artwork, and we'll just go through each team one by one, and look at your art pieces. We'll go through, tell you what we liked, what we think can be improved in maybe the next piece if you did something similar. As Angela, as you're already sort of familiar with this sort of format slightly because you did the midstream, if you want to take it away.
Oh no, don't do this to me. All right. So we're starting with Team 1, right?
Yeah, we're starting with Team 1.
Awesome. So yeah, lovely to see a fellow stylized team. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how extensive I want to be, so if I'm a bit short, we can extend afterwards when we're talking about all of the scenes together. But yeah, I loved how there was clutter everywhere around the scene, quite literally sold the seeds and like damaged the state of the whole scene. The asset consistency was also like spot on, like everything felt equally polished. And yeah, I think like I really like the night sky, which is like a shame that we couldn't enjoy it from all of the angles. But yeah, one of the last ones that I saw had some nice shots and some interesting composition. And if I were to pick like one improvement in the whole scene is to probably use the lighting. I mean, as a lighting artist, that's my focus area. But yeah, probably try and balance out which are your brightest spots in the scenes and have the fire particles affect the overall brightness of your scene a bit less, just so you can guide the viewer to where you want them to focus on. So yeah, great job. And yeah, as I said, nice seeing a stylized team, and hopefully next time we get some more entries as well.
Yeah, indeed. Like if you know any stylized people, definitely get them to sign up next time because we always struggle for stylized people. So yeah. Karen, do you want to go next?
Sure. Honestly, my stuff is pretty similar to Angelo's. I think we all had a pretty similar opinion about this. I also loved all the little stories that are placed around with all the clutter. It was really selling the chaos of everything. Especially like the destroyed boat just rammed into the top of the castle. It makes me wonder what happened here. I love the fact it's hand painted and stylized. It's one of the only stylized pieces we have in this competition. And everyone stylized is hard to do, right? It's hard to pull off and sell. You rely less on technicality and way more on artistic skill. So good job. And yeah, my other thought was that it was a large piece too. The scale, with all the little pieces, all about order destruction. Destruction takes a long time to do. So it's a lot of work's gone into this, and I can tell it took a lot of time to do as well. My one improvement, similar to Angelo, I felt like the fire was kind of overtaking everything a little bit. So if you could tone down the saturation and the brightness of the fire, or bring up everything else, and play with your colors a bit more, so balance out those colors and lighting to really pull focus to what the one thing is that you want the person viewing this to really look at, would be my one improvement.
Nice. And then, last but not least, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, most of the points which were mentioned, I totally agree with them. One thing which I can just add on the improvement part first is when we are looking at the scene as a total scene, there are some areas which can be stylized. For example, the skybox, which you see around, that's more, more realistic, a bit more, a bit less in the style of the entire scene. So I think playing around with that can be interesting. Along with that, the level of stylization of different aspects can be played around a bit with. So the way you're trying to stylize the scene, maybe that's not the style which we are going for water and fire. So I think these three elements, water, fire, and the sky dome, if you work on a bit of stylization pass on this, it can add a lot to the scene. But other than that, it's the scene is massive, and I think the way assets are interacting with each other, almost the storytelling which was mentioned before, and the way things are scattered, I think it's really good. So good job.
Yeah, I would agree with all those points. And yeah, we always like to say, like, 5 weeks, it's a really big team. You've done an incredible job. You should all be very proud of yourself. But yeah, let's move on to team 2, because we have got 5 teams this time, and it might take a while to get through everyone. On to team 2.
Are we using the same order?
We can mix it up if you want. Should we go with Karen? Let's mix it up a little bit.
Sure. So I really liked this one. The atmosphere, the general atmosphere of all the foggy, kind of moody night. I really enjoyed it. Reminded me of The Witcher quite a bit. I don't know if The Witcher was your inspiration at all, but it's got that Witcher swampy, like the air is thick feel to it, which is super nice. The balance of the fire and the fog is really nice as well. Like you've got your saturations matching up super well. I love the attention to the detail on the terrain shape, especially. It's definitely had some thought put into it to frame your scene composition wise. Most people would just like flat terrain, randomize it, do whatever, and not really think about it. But you've thought about your pathing towards the main gate and how the hills come into each other to frame the scene, which is super awesome. I also, again, love the sense of scale. The trebuchets being close to us gives us a really good sense of scale for how big that castle is in the background, which is awesome. My one improvement would be use lighting a bit more to pull focus on the main gate entrance. It's kind of getting lost in the darkness as it goes back into the fog. So if you could get some sunlight on there breaking through the clouds, and it's like a beam of light on the gate, so we know that that is our focus that we're supposed to be looking at. That would be my one main improvement.
Nice. Risha, do you want to go second this time?
Sure. Yeah, I think again I agree with Karen, and mainly the most interesting part for me in this scene is the overall mood which artists are trying to set up here, and that's the strongest element of this entire scene. When we're talking about the improvements, I can say that there's this consistency in this entire scene. So there is depth between the objects, but I think with lighting, as Karen was mentioning, playing around with that aspect can even add to that depth. And also when you look at the silhouettes, they are quite consistent. So uh, just playing around with the shapes a bit for the castle and the placement of some of the elements, and I think the scene can be in a pretty good stage. Again, skybox, that's a common thing here. I think Skybox can be more interesting, so you can rely on HDRIs a bit more. Maybe playing around with the dynamic sky a bit. That's one element which I feel is weak. Um, but overall, again, looking at the timeline and what have been achieved, that's really good.
And finally, Angelo, I'm sure you've got some things to say about the lighting.
No, honestly, I love how they use the volumetric fog and fog guards to actually, like as Karen said, to sell the scale and the overall mood of the scene. Like it looks heavy. I love the film grain and the overall color grading / like post processing that they've done. I would also agree with Risab about the skybox. I don't feel it's like it needs too much information, but yeah, maybe a combination of also what Karen said, have some directional light that's kind of obstructed by clouds, maybe a translucent grayscale texture to make some interesting like light shapes on the terrain. That would be amazing. I also love like the way they place the trebuchets and the foliage on the bottom right, telling the foreground elements and helping the overall composition. And yeah, they seem to not to have actually controlled how intensive the fire elements are in the scene, so they're not really very distracting. So yeah, that's a job well done.
Yeah, all great points, and I'm sure you can all find like some great points to take into your next piece. Right, they're quite like overall small nitpicks that you can very easily improve in like your next scene, or even this one if you've got the next few days before we post it all up. Sorry, I forgot to scroll through the images as we were talking. I'll just quickly scroll through some of them because there's a few nice alternative shots. Give us a second. Sorry about that. Give us just a second. The image is here. My PC doesn't want to load it. There we go. So, moving on to Team 3, which they had a bit of a different scene from everyone else. Gone down a different route for the theming. So, Rishabh, do you want to take it away first for this one?
Sure. Yeah, I think firstly, it's always interesting to see an interior scene within this theme of things, and mostly people will go for exterior scenes. But I think it's a brave approach to go for interior scenes because you have a smaller area to play around with, and which is always more complicated if you think about it. But the things which really worked for me in this scene was like there's a sense of material variation which I can see. So there are these wooden walls and wooden patterns on the walls, and also gold you can see on the walls, and then there is this marble effect which is there. So I think that variation of materials was really interesting to see. So whenever we take a look at the scene, we always say that that variation should be there, and the composition was really good. The way that circular element was used for the gate, that was really interesting to see. Um, and I think overall it's a good scene. Though the feedback which I would have is like overall scene it gets a bit noisy when you look at the walls, and there is this marble texture which is going, and then there's also marble texture which is on the broken things and stuff. So there's just too much of same sort of texture which is flowing, and textile density is a bit off in some areas, in certain areas. So it's all about that balance which you need to find when you're working on an environment, especially the interior. That's why I'm saying sometimes it can even be more complicated. That where do you want to have your resting places, and things and details should be more precise rather than everywhere. Um, yeah. So, but overall, good job.
Yeah. Angelo, we'll head over to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with the composition and some of the material definition like issues that Risham mentioned. But yeah, I really love the composition, how they frame the cameras. It's very effective, and the way that they adjusted the lighting by the end and made it subtle enough, but at the same time interesting enough in all of the right places. So yeah, that was very nice to see. I loved how they managed to cram in as much environmental storytelling through decals and like damaged assets, and yeah, even on the textures themselves at some points. So yeah, great stuff. And yeah, if I had one improvement to suggest, for some reason that image, like the final render, gives me an over sharpened look. So I can't exactly pinpoint which element is causing that, but yeah, maybe some more like polishing on the post processing. For example, things like depth of field is missing. Some vignetting perhaps could help, or some more aggressive color grading could also elevate the scene even more. But yeah, lovely stuff.
Yeah. Then finally, Karen.
Yeah, so I thought this was one of the clearest storytelling pieces that were submitted for this competition. The interior space means it's a very controlled area, and you did a good job of using that space to tell the story you wanted to tell. The video made me laugh a bit. I'm assuming you took the whole siege thing literally, and it reminds me of Rainbow Six Siege, so that worked out well. I enjoyed your use of lighting, using the shadows from the window to direct focus and get that nice shadow play coming into the scene. Was super nice. Interior design was good as well. That circular door stands out and is a really good focal point. And my one bugbear with interiors is everyone tends to make square boxes and then put furniture in it, but you did a really good job of making sure there's insets, pillars coming in and out, and the ceiling also has 3D geometry to it as well, which, yeah, really good interior design. My one improvement would be material scale and response. So scale being textile density, which some of the others mentioned. Some of the marble on the wall you can kind of see is just a little bit off and stretched and skewed in weird ways. And for it being marble, it feels like the scene is missing reflections. So the roughness may just be not responding as marble should, or maybe there's something going on with the lighting, depending on if you use probed or baked or GI. I'm not sure what you ended up using here. Yeah, so getting some of those reflections back in the materials and having that distinction between the really shiny stuff and the really matte wood, for instance, would be a really good improvement for this.
No, that's some really great points there. This team in particular, I think I just want to say, like, you went through a lot of iteration, so it's good to see what you finally settled with. You've come a long way from where it started, so yeah, without getting too much into it, because I'm remaining unbiased. You did a great job. Yeah, we'll move on to Team 4 now, who, yeah, well, they went sort of back to the medieval theme that most of the teams went with. Let's start with Angelo for this one, for this little blacksmith's house.
Yeah, so overall, very nice thumbnail shots and like some interesting stuff happening. Both on the foreground with those little pockets of light with some very interesting storytelling throughout, and also on the background with the windmill. I remember that it was part of the like team's goals to update that and make it more prominent, so it's nice to see it there. Same with the overall composition. I'd say I love how you approached foliage and used it to your advantage, especially on the background part of the scene to actually frame the main house in a very nice ways. And yeah, like my other note is overall storytelling throughout the scene, and I did notice a couple of assets that were slightly inconsistent in terms of quality and polish, so you probably run out of time. So yeah, that's totally reasonable within the time restrictions that this challenge had. So yeah, if you could just go back and revisit a couple of those, I think it's specifically talking one wooden log, I think, that looks a bit blobby, and then the thatched roofs that are looking surprisingly clean for a house that's burning. But yeah, other than that, amazing work.
Yeah, no, that's great. Karen, next, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this was that the general scene composition was good. Not so much about where the camera is placed, but more in a game sense. It feels like you can walk around this place and go take different paths and investigate things, which is good for making video games. We're not just making still images, right? We're making 360 scenes that you can explore. So yeah, I had a good feeling that you could explore this place, which was cool. The general clutter and storytelling was also good. I zoomed into the images and kept spotting little arrows in random places, which was fun to find. Also, terrain pathing, as I mentioned earlier, like seeing those paths quite clearly is really good for a player wandering around and exploring, which is super cool. My one improvement was just general foliage. It's more of a technical thing rather than an artistic thing. If you could try checking out, in Maya it's called transfer attributes, but you basically average out the normals and it makes the foliage look a little bit more fluffy and nice because you've got some harsh shadowing going on the foliage. And also the way the cards are put together for the foliage means it's feeling like it's really sparse. And if you can investigate how to do card placements on foliage a lot more technically not correct, but technically better, you'll get a much better coverage of foliage, which can also work for the thatch roof as well. I actually have some PDFs I can give to Tim and everyone afterwards, so they can send on to you guys to have a look at that technical stuff. That's my improvements.
No, that'd be great. I'm sure everyone will appreciate those resources. And then finally, Rishabh.
Yeah, I think great points already mentioned. I can second on the house layout and the overall the way things are placed. I think it looks like a very playable game scene, which is always a good approach when you're doing environments. Think of it like a player and what areas you want the player to go, and I think that's really good. So very organic looking terrain as well, and I think that's working very well. Lighting and mood is also really good in the scene. As for the improvements, I totally agree with Karen's point on the shadows, which the way I think light is reacting with some of the assets, either there is some issue with the normals. So even if you look at the fence, the way it's reacting, I think the normals might be flipped. So you can just give it a check. As for the roof, I think sometimes you can even get away with turning off shadows for some of them, for some of those things. Um, and as for the lighting, the way you have placed, I think there can be some sort of a variation in the intensity. So all the lamps are getting lit at the same intensity. Fire having the same intensity can also be, you can play around a bit with that. So you can use the color correction volumes. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's a really cool thing. Just a volume in Unreal Engine, and you can use that to add the variation in the darkness. I think that's pretty much it. The strongest part is the mood, and I think the part which can be improved is the roof. That's the major thing for me. But good job. It's a very big scene to make.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those statements, and yeah, great depth to the scene. I've seen someone put in the thing. I think a lot of people are loving this scene. And some really nice technical feedback there. There was a few technical tips in there that I think everyone, regardless of this scene or the other 4 scenes that are going on, could take note of. Some nice technical details that are a bit specific. And then last but not least, we have Team 5, who have gone with a medieval town road, I suppose, that's under siege. I can't remember who we had first last time, but let's go with Karen. Please.
Sure. Yeah, this one was really nice. My top thing that I liked that I have a note here for is the fire is really nice. Really good flip books. The speed of it is slightly off in the video, but in terms of like visual quality, superb. Loved it. There's been some good thought put into your camera selection as well for your key shots, especially for composition. I'm a sucker for low down Dutch angle street shots, so some really nice composition and camera work going on there. And where you've chosen to put those cameras, you've made sure that you've got storytelling in the scene, so you've got your props in the good focus locations, which is really cool. Terrain work is also really nice. Same as I think it was Team 2. You put some thought into using the terrain for composition. It's not just flat. You've made sure that it's got some nice 3D geometry going into it. And the material response in it is really nice as well. You've got shiny spots, matte spots, so it's giving a nice bit of variation in there. My one improvement for the rest of the scene, though, would actually be attention to material response in some of the closer up shots. So some of your blending of the grass into the terrain is pretty harsh. So it'd be nice to see some vertex painting in there so that the grass feels like it's sitting into something that makes sense for it to be growing out of, rather than just coming straight out of stone. And yeah, some of the wood as well feels a bit rubbery rather than woody, which is usually down to roughness variation. So yeah, that's my one improvement: material blending and variation.
Sorry. Rishabh, do you want to go next? Sorry, I muted
Sure.
myself. Classic Teams thing.
All good. Yeah, I think for me, the thing which is working in this scene and the previous scene the most is the lighting and the mood. So the most interesting part for me is, like, even if you're looking at the still image, you feel the movement, and it feels so dynamic. The way fire is looking right now, and there are things which are just this something about the scene, the way the smoke is also coming and the directionality of the things. I think that's the most interesting part, and I think that's very difficult to achieve in a still image. So that's working really well. There's also clarity of all the elements. Whenever it's a night scene, it's most difficult thing that things are readable, and I think the way the artists have played with those silhouettes and the layout of the entire thing, that's working really well. Materials already has been mentioned by Karen. I think they are really good. Other than the wood, wood is very rubber looking, so I think something wrong with the roughness there. um, and one small improvement, I think, we are not playing the video, but I was looking at the video of this thing as well, and I think the way the fire is moving, we tend to not change the light intensity accordingly. So just playing around with the flickering of the light intensity around the fire can add a lot to the dynamism of the scene. So I know I mentioned that the dynamic nature of the scene was really good in still images, but when it came to video, it could have been better. But yeah, great job.
And then, Angelo, do you want to finish us off on the feedback?
Most definitely. First of all, I think the thumbnail sort of like immediate response that I get is that it's a very well made scene. Love the color grading and how they managed to balance out the lighting, especially compared to the last time I checked the scene during the previous feedback live stream we had. As Karen said, I love how even the ground has some nice slope and it has some interesting shapes, and you utilize that in your composition and picked very interesting camera angles to showcase exactly that. And yeah, apart from the wood, I'll also agree with the rest of the people, but yeah, I feel the ground material has been nailed, and and I really love the roughness imperfection that it has and some very nice definition. If I were to pick one small improvement, maybe the sky could have some extra information. I know it's a night scene or like a dusk scene, but yeah, maybe some clouds, maybe some gradients could make it a bit more interesting, and also maybe some small tertiary props to like some very small assets to enhance the storytelling of the scene. But yeah, overall, great job.
No, some great feedback again. Just small pointers, as with most of the scenes, right? They're small things that would just push that scene to the next level. So hopefully everyone's, hopefully most of the people from the Team Challenge are in here, and they've took note of that, and it'll help them. Maybe you've got a couple of days before screenshot sharing day. So maybe some of those little ones you might be able to tweak between now and then. Skyboxes, little tweaks here and there. So hopefully that's really helped you out. Thank you, all three of you, for taking the time to review these, right, and write down all this feedback. It's very much appreciated. As we understand, you're all very busy people as game developers. So we're going to move on to the bit that you've probably all been waiting for, to find out who placed in the top 3. So, without further ado, lost it. Sorry, our presentation broke down a little bit. So I'll just go to a blank slide. So actually, I'll go to images. Sorry, our presentation. Miro has a funny presentation system where you have to reorganize all the slides. So, in third place, we have Team 2. They did a great job. The scene is what it is. It was a great atmospheric scene. And as you've heard from the feedback, there was so many great things about it. I think you had a really strong idea from the start, and you executed on that idea. So, good job for following through on your initial idea. I forgot to say before I actually announced who the third place was the voting was actually really close. Like, the system we used, there wasn't a lot of points between 5th and 1st. So every team's done a good job, and like it was really close. Literally 1 point between, I think, the top few teams. So second place is Team 4 with their blacksmith scene. Again, another great job. You had a good idea from the start of what you wanted to achieve, and again, you execute on it. Got that idea in early, and then really focused the time on the production side of things. Both third place and second place, you have both. Every member of the team will receive 1 month of Beyond Extend workshop level. The next workshop is a Houdini, intro to Houdini, which will be great for everyone because games are getting more that way, where they're getting bigger and more procedural. So that'll be great for everyone to see. And then the first place winner, little drum roll. Go on. I don't know if people in the chat, who do people think's first? First place goes to Team 5, who I think just really nailed the scene. I think it's worth mentioning, a little special shout out to them, that actually they did this for the most part with 4 people due to personal circumstances. So to pull a scene of this scale and quality off is props to them. Lots and lots of hard work, and like lots of it, right? They put in serious hours to sort of get this done. So very much deserved. First place, you'll receive 2 months of the workshop access tier. And you'll also each receive a personal portfolio review or feedback session from Timothy, which I can personally highly recommend. So you can make use of that. I'm sure Tim will get in contact with you to confirm any sort of details about that. So congratulations to all the teams, even those that didn't place in the top 3. Like I said, you were all super close. Like it was like really close in terms of scoring. And I think if some of those teams had nailed a couple of those feedback things that the judges had mentioned, right, it could have flipped results in different directions. So yeah, small things make a big difference. Right. So moving on to what's next. So the next challenge will be, I think I'm jumping ahead of myself. What's next? Yep, sorry. All thrown out by the presentation, getting a little nervous. So you've got a few days now between now and Thursday if you want to make any of those minor improvements that the judges have said to get it in that most polished state that you can for the ArtStation Art Dump sharing day. There's an event in Discord, so you can all know when we're all going to share. Like we said, we all share together. It helps get a little bit more visibility on all the awesome work you've been doing. Sort of, I know numbers don't matter, but it helps with all that hard work you've put in, especially as many of you are looking for jobs and stuff. So in those couple of days while you're making those improvements, as individuals, you might want to render out some of your individual props that you've made, really showcase the texturing and stuff you've done for those props, or materials or whatever you've made for the scene. Any sort of breakdowns you've got. On Thursday, when we do the art share, it's a period of time, sort of any time on Thursday, really. So if between your team you want to agree on like a rough time that you can all share together, so each team's sort of go out together, that'd be great. You've all been amazing with communication this time, so I don't see any problems with you communicating and arranging that between yourselves. And then lastly, you will lose access to your source control in the start of next week, basically. So make sure you've got any sort of updates you want pulled from the repository, because after that point you won't have access to it. Don't worry, it doesn't. When you lose access to the repository, it doesn't delete all the files off your computer. You just can't pull any new updates down to yourself. So just make sure you've got those sort of by the end of this weekend. This weekend being next weekend, so a week from now. And then for those of you that either love this so much and want to put you through 5 weeks of chaos again, the next team challenge sign-ups will open in June, and the challenge will run over the course of July. For those that obviously haven't ever participated but do want to participate, you can find all the information about past team challenges on the website to give you an idea of what you're getting involved with. And then closer to the time, the information for the new challenge will go up. So, lastly, I really want to give a massive shout out to you three again for spending a couple of hours of more than a couple of hours of your time to come and review their work. It's I don't know how to say it. I really appreciate that you do that, right? We try real hard to run these team challenges to give the best experience for the people, right? Help people get jobs, get better. So the fact we've got like 3 amazing artists from the industry to be able to give that feedback, it's just like a big highlight for me in the team challenges. I don't know if you all just want to. I don't know if it's a thing. If you want to sort of give a little shout out to yourselves of where people can find you, or like if you want to be left alone, or whether they can find you on ArtStation, and if you've got any resources and stuff like that where they can find more stuff from you. If we want to just go down, starting with Angelo.
Oh, just to go watch Karen's resources and tutorials. No, it was lovely to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and it was amazing to see the progress of the teams. Looking forward to the next one, of course. And I love how like no one really does team challenges, and I know it's so much work on the back end that most people don't actually see or notice. But yeah, it's amazing to see every time that we actually have finished environments within such a like constrained timelines, and yeah, lots of good work, and like seeing artists implementing feedback and improving at such a quick pace. It's amazing to see, and yeah, looking forward to the next one. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, I've heard rumor says Angelo's taking part in the next one. Just you can all call him out on it if he doesn't. Karen, I don't know if you want to do a quick shout out.
Sure.
for yourself.
Yeah. I mostly live on ArtStation these days. If you search Karen Stanley, it'll come up. I'll also post a link in the chat because my username is obnoxious and hard to find. Don't do that. Make it easy to type. Yeah, there's a couple of resources in there. They're getting a little bit out of date now, but they might still be useful for you. Yeah, thanks to the Beyond Extent team. It's as Andrew said, it's a lot of work behind the scenes to put these competitions together. So, good job, you guys.
Yeah, and then Rishabh, obviously, finally.
Yeah, I think what we saw today, I think it's all wonderful work from, and it's very passionately done work, and you can feel that, and I think that's what is needed to get into the industry. And working in the deadlines is very irritating, I know, but it's also what we do every day. So I think this is a classic example of how within time boxing things, and working in a team, working with along each other, you might hate some people, you might love some people, but I think in the end the results matter, and I think whatever has been delivered is excellent. It's first step into the industry. Just continue doing this. I still do my personal work. I still take part in some challenges whenever possible, and it doesn't matter on seniority or anything. Things are changing so rapidly, so this is the best way to learn. And yeah, Beyond Extend is amazing. Timothy is amazing. I know him for a lot of years now, and I think it's great to see what he's doing and what this community is doing. So awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. I think it should be pointed out. Tim is behind the scenes here, and like
No,
none
I'm
of this
not.
would none of this would happen without Tim and Beyond Extent supporting like my crazy idea of like let's get 5 people into a team and like make something together because it's cool, right? And for those that you were around at the start, it's come a long way from us bumbling together 5 people because I thought it'd be a good idea to the point it has, and it's taken a lot of work behind the scenes and also like lots of effort from people like Angelo, Karen, and Rishabh. People coming in helping us to provide everything that we try to achieve or aspire to achieve. So again, I've probably said it too many times, but thank you so much, especially for our first set of judges. It was always going to be a little bit rough, but we appreciate you coming in. That'll be it for today. You'll probably see myself and Tim around the Discord plenty. I know Angelo's on there from time to time. Karen and Rishabh, are on there at the moment. But I don't know if they want to be harassed on Discord. But you can harass the other 3 of us anyway. Thank you for coming into the stream. If you've got any questions, just ping them in the various channels where we will track rubbish. And thank you.